Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Oh Brother, What to Do with the 024, 028, and 588 fields for CDs and DVDs. And Eric McKinney is our presenter. Take it away, Eric. Eric, we can't hear you if you're talking.
Sorry about that, everyone. Hi, my name is Eric McKinney, and I'm having horrible troubles with my mute button this morning. All right, so again, my name is Eric McKinney. I have been, and I'm a newer cataloger here at Illinois Heartland Library Systems Cataloging Maintenance Center. I came to the CMC from Millikan University in Decatur, where I cataloged a variety of items for 13 years, but nothing like I've seen so far at the CMC. Everything from books in Braille and Arabic to local genealogy records. I've also enjoyed watching the previous Online with the CMC recordings. They are such a wealth of information that I learn as much as anyone. I'm excited to be a part of the CMC and look forward to learning more about cataloging with everyone. So as the title screen says, today I'd like to talk about using fields 024, 028, and the 588 with CDs and DVDs. So on our agenda for today, we will take a look at both the indicators and subfields of 024, 028, and 588 fields as they pertain mostly to CDs and DVDs. I was a little bit tricksome with the title of the presentation as I did sneak in a bit of information on music scores and vinyl albums, since some of the indicators do deal directly with those. Let's see, feel free to type any questions you might have in the chat box at any time during the presentation. I will also take questions at the end of the presentation. So with the introductions and preliminaries out of the way, let's dive in. 024 is the other standard number. The definition for OCLC is standard numbers or codes published on an item that cannot be accommodated in another field, such as the 020, which is the International Standard Book Number, or ISBN, the 022, which is the International Standard Serial Number, or ISSN, or the 027, which is the Standard Technical Report Number, or STRN. The 024 is a required field, so if the information is on the item, then it should be recorded in the record. 024, the first indicator. The first indicator is the type of standard number or code you will be using for the item. You'll see there are 7 options here, but note that there is no number 5 or number 6 here. Only 2 of these options really apply to CDs or DVDs, which is 0 and 1. So we'll take a closer look at them, but I'm also going to take a quick look at the International Standard Music Number, simply because it's music related and thought would fit here. So we'll start with that because it's the indicator 0 for the 024, which is the International Standard Recording Code, or the ISRC. And that's the globally recognized standard numbering system for audio and music video recordings. It functions as a universal identification number for each sound recording. And the ISRC, as you can see, is a string of 12 alphanumeric characters broken into 4 elements separated by hyphens. The elements are 1, the country code. In our example here, it's US, it's the very first string. It consists of just 2 characters, and those come from the ISO 3166, the codes for the representation of names and countries. The second part is the registrant code, and that's simply the first owner of the recording, and that consists of simply 3 characters. Our third part is the year of registration, and that's only 2 characters. It's just the last 2 digits of the year. So in our example here, which is from 2013, if we were to put out something this year, it would read 22 there. And finally, we have the designation code or the recording code, and that's the last 5 characters, and that's assigned sequentially by the first owner of the ISRC code. The codes are primarily used to identify and catalog individual songs or tracks on an album. ISRC code allows you to get paid for digital music sales by ensuring your royalties are being tracked properly. The codes are necessary to sell your individual tracks via iTunes and other online music distributors. They're also required for any songs that you plan to offer for streaming on Spotify or other streaming services. Similarly, you'll need to get ISRC codes in order to have your songs added to the Billboard charts, if that's something you're interested in. And in order to have a chance making the Billboard music charts, your release must be registered with the Nielsen SoundScan using your ISRC codes for the individual tracks. If they're not registered, your sales figures are not counted and you remain invisible to the system, which isn't very good for publicity. ISRC codes are also used to identify videos and spoken word recordings, such as audiobooks, sermons, and training programs. If you are a musician and you're off time and have some music and would like your own ISRC code, you can obtain that from the URL at the bottom of the screen, https://isrc.com/index.html. 024 is indicator 1 is the universal product code. And here's for the CDs portion. Almost everyone's probably seen a UPC before. So here, using one of my favorite musical groups, Government Mule's new album, Heavy Load Blues, as an example, shameless plug, we can find the UPC on the back cover of the item. And I took a not very good picture. You're going to see a recurring theme with those. So the UPC is the familiar barcode with 12 digits below. It consists of 3 parts. The first digit is the number system character. It will always be to the left outside of the bars. The 2nd through 11th characters will always be directly beneath the barcode. Finally, the 12th digit is just a check digit, and it's going to be at the bottom right outside the bars. The numbers are entered, as in our example below the picture, without the initials use PC, hyphens, or spaces. Per OCLC, the 3 parts might be arranged differently depending on the kind of resource you're looking at, either audio, video, serials, paperback books, etc. Audio and video products are treated just the same when you're recording those. The 10 digits of part 2, printed below the parallel bars, consist of 3 elements. A 5-digit code that designates the manufacturer assigned by the Uniform Code Council, which sounds pretty official, a 5-digit selection number, and a single-digit configuration number. The 5th digit of the first element serves as both the last digit of the manufacturer designation and the first digit of the selection number. The 10th digit is the configuration number, indicates the format of the product. And if you were able to keep that straight, I think you're one ahead of me. And for DVDs, the 024 indicator 1, and most of the time that can also be found on the back cover of the DVD. And the item here, we have an ISBN clearly labeled, so the number, of course, there is going to go into the 020, but the number below is our UPC. We got the 2 digits outside and the 10 inside, so that can be recorded as in our subfield there. 024 indicator 2 is the difference indicator. As mentioned in the previous slide, there are 3 options for indicator 2. OCLC tells us it should be used to indicate the difference between a scan number or code and the same number or code in iReadable format. So if left blank, it means there's no information provided, or that the iReadable number simply does not appear in a form that's adequate for scanning. 0 indicates no difference, and 1, there is a difference in the versions. So for the subfields for 024, of course, we have subfield A, which we just looked at a few examples of that, the UPC and ISRC, etc. Subfield C is terms of availability. It was more widely used for pricing info, but not so much these days. Now it's mostly used to indicate if there's any rental material available with the item. Subfield D is the additional codes following the standard code. And this is where the manufacturer's price info might be placed. It's found above its own smaller little barcode. You can see to the right, the 03862. And it would be coded as 0241 blank 027 011 003559, and then subfield D, and that's where you'd put your 03862. Subfield Q of the 024 is qualifying information. And that's just a brief description of the qualifying information associated with the number recorded in subfield A. For example, a score with 2 parts, or with parts along with the score, would be presented as 024. Indicator 2, subfield A, M1408, then you would need your qualifying information subfield Q there. And you can see in the first 024, we have score in parentheses, and then we note the parts in its separate 024. And that would also be in parentheses. And that brings us to subfield Z, which is a canceled or invalid standard code. You've probably seen these in maybe the 035 field a lot of times, indicating OCLC numbers that are no longer in use or were previous. So this one would be an invalid code. 0241, as he tells us, it's no longer used. 5539143515. Okay, that brings us to indicator 2, which is the International Standard Music Number. As I said, we're going to get just a little bit away from DVDs and CDs, but at least this is music related. ISMNs, International Standard Music Numbers, are agency assigned, and it can consist of 10 digits if it was something printed before 2008, or if it's after 2008, it would be 13 digits. But the 10-digit ISMN starts with the letter M, followed by 8 digits, and then the character check digit that applies to the previous 8. The 13-digit ISMN has no M, but instead begins with 9790. Like the ISMC, do not enter the initials ISMN, hyphens, or spaces when you're entering this. All right, that brings us to the 028 field. OCLC tells us that it's formatted number used for sound recordings, printed music, other music-related materials, and video recordings. Publishers and distributors numbers that are given in an unformatted form are recorded in field 500. I'm not sure why I underlined that. A print constant identifying the kind of publisher or distributor number may be generated based on the value in the first indicator position, repeatable for multiple numbers associated with an item. And again, the O28 is a required field, so if you have the information there in front of you, you should record that. I thought I would start with indicator 2 for the 028, simply because it's the main note access point controllers. And you've probably seen this in other fields before. So these are the only options for that. 0 is going to generate no note or no access point. 1 is going to generate a note and an access point is required. And 1 is preferred by many catalogers because it will display both the number and it also makes that number searchable. So that's a good reason. And why not be able to search and display it at the same time? Number 2 is it adds a note but no access point. So in this case, it would display the number, but the patron would not be able to search by that number and locate the item. So I think that's why I prefer the 1 in that field. 3 does not generate a note, but the access point is required. So this one, you would have the access point with the number, but it might not be displayed. 028, first indicator, is type of number. So now we can look at the first indicator. There are 7 options for the first. Most deal with music, but there is 1 for videos, as well as a couple that might apply to a video. So we're going to take a look at each. Indicator 0 is the issue number. That's assigned by the publisher to identify the issue or serial designation of a sound recording. This can be a full recording, one side of a recording, or a certain performance on a recording. Many times it can be found on the spine of the CD. Here's my picture, again, not very good, of the issue number for the government mule CD that we looked at earlier. Below that is how the 028 field would look. There may be more than one issue number, such as where discs are sold individually of a set of discs, that is, are sold individually. A separate 028 field should be used for each issue number. And as you can see above, we've coded this as 028, 01, and the number fan 01449, subfield B, fantasy. 028, indicator 1, is the matrix number. Disappointingly, this has absolutely nothing to do with Keanu Reeves, but it's also used for sound recordings. And OCLC tells us that the matrix number is the number of the master recording from which the specific recording you have was pressed. It's usually associated with the final. Albums may be stamped or it may be handwritten somewhere on the label. And in this particular example, we have it, you can see it directly above stereo is the matrix number for this one. So our 028 looks like 028, 11, and then subfield A with the matrix number, and you have matrix in parentheses at the end of that. So the 028 indicator 2 is the plate number, and this one applies more to scores assigned by the publisher to specific music publications, scores or librettos. It can be typically found at the bottom of each page, but you can also locate it on the title page. It might include initials, abbreviations, or words that identify the publisher. It might also be followed by a number denoting the number of pages. However, in our example here, it's simply the number. It appears on the title page as well as the bottom of each page. So our 028 in this case looks like 02821, subfield A 2248, and the publisher name in subfield B, which is International Music Company. All right, so indicator 3 is our other music publisher number. Indicator 3 can be used for scores and other materials. If there is another music publisher number, it will appear usually on the title page, cover, and the first page. However, you can also use an indicator 3 if the number that you see doesn't really fit into one of those 3 categories. In the example above, the UPC has a string of numbers 38836 above it. We know it's not the issue, the matrix, or the plate number. So in this case, we can use 3 in indicator 1, and that would be coded like 02831, then 38836 in subfield A, and again, the publisher in subfield B, which is Alfred Publishing Company in this case. 028 indicator 4 is the video recording publisher number, and that's pretty much just what it says, and that's usually found on the spine or the packaging, a lot of times on the spine on the DVD. Again, sorry about the quality of the image. Ansel Adams, I am not. So, but this one would be coded as 028. We would put indicator 4 in the first one, 1 in the second, and then the number that we found on the spine, 25457 in subfield A. 028 indicator 5 is the other publisher number. This is when the number before that you're looking at doesn't really fit into any of the 4 categories we just talked about. Sometimes a streaming audiobook won't do this, so I made up this exciting audiobook titled The Life and Times of Keanu Reeves. And this is how you would code that: 028, 5 in the first indicator, 1 in the second, and then the number we found on the back was N285E2310, and that was from Amazon. All right, so 028 indicator 6, this one I've never really used before. It says it's the distributor number. You should really only put it if it's clear that it's the distributor number. But I've never really seen a number on an item I've done that says, hey, this is your distributor number. It's not always clear what you're looking at. In that case, it should be recorded as a publisher number if you don't have the distributor number. As I said, I've personally never seen one. If anyone's ever used it, indicator 6, I'd love to hear how you've used that and what you've used that for. So please chime in. Subfields for the 028. We have subfield A is the publisher or distributor number. We just kind of went over that. We know it's the number assigned by the publisher or the distributor if we can figure that out. B is the source. Use the publisher's name if cataloging a score, an audio recording, or a video recording. And Q is qualifying information again. So it's intended for qualifying information such as where the info was found on the item or if there are any parts. And that brings us to the 588 field. OCLC defines it as information used for tracking and controlling the metadata contained in the record. It includes general and specific source of description notes that are of special interest to other catalogers. The 588 is also a required field. If the information is on the item, it should be recorded. It's usually used for serials to identify issues or on kits to identify each piece used as a basis of identification of the resource. If the resource is online, be sure to include the date of resource was viewed. And indicator 1 for the 588 is the display constant controller. If you leave it blank, it's not providing any information about where you took the description from. 0 is the source of description, and that you can use for anything, serials, or we'll take a look at an example in the next slide here. And so indicator 1 indicates latest issue consulted. If you're doing serials, you can look at the date there and record that. The subfields, really, there's a subfield A. It's a note that contained administrative information. So such as taking, we used to put the title from cover in the 500 field, but now it's more appropriate to put that in a 588 0. And you can see some examples here, like if the DVD, you take the title from the container, 588 0, subfield A, title from container, or from the disc label, if you get that for CD, DVD, or a vinyl album, 588 0, where it was found. And the lastly is the example for how it should look if you're doing a online resource with the viewed date in parentheses behind where you found the information. That's everything I have for today. I really appreciate everybody bearing with me at the start of that. And that concludes our presentation. Here's a list of the resources that I used for the presentation today. And those will be made available when we post the slides. And thank you for listening. If you have any questions, bring them on. And on the call with me today is Dr. Pam Thomas, and we'll be happy to try to answer any questions you might have.
Hi, Eric. We do have one. Give me a minute so I can let people unmute themselves if they want to. Okay. And it's just me and Eric today because Barb and Mary are going through NACO training, and they might be able to join us at some point, but they were not here for the entire presentation. So sadly, you just have the two of us to answer questions.
We shall do our best.
We shall. Okay, so Katie asks, will the year of registration code in the ISRC need to be updated, elongated soon, since we will eventually run into multiple years with the same last two numbers? I also don't know how long ago recordings have been able to be registered, so it might not be a pressing issue anytime soon. I did look that up, but I'll tell you what I put in the chat, but if you've got more information, Eric, then please feel free to add. So I found out the ISRC numbers were first assigned in 1989. So the year 2089 would be the first year there might be duplicates, but since the other numbers vary, in that string of numbers, it might not be a problem, or they might move to a 4-digit number for the year starting in 2088. And then Katie said, thanks. I was thinking this might not be an issue for a very long time, but I wasn't sure. And then I said, I don't plan on being alive in 2088 or 2089, so it will be someone else's problem. And then Katie said, if I'm very lucky, I might be. I'll try and stick around to remind someone about this upcoming problem. And then Katie also said, fantastic job, Eric, super informative. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
And Aaron Murray also said, very informative. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, Aaron.
So yeah, so you can either, if you've got questions, just type them in the chat box, or you should now be able to unmute yourselves, if I did it correctly, and ask your question verbally if you would like to. Yeah, really good job, Eric. I think some of these fields are a little confusing.
They can be, yes.
So does anybody have any other questions? And we'll be trying to do the next set of our Online with the CMCs for next fiscal year, starting in August or September. So if anybody has any topics they would like us to cover, this would be a great time to share those ideas with us, because we can certainly get those in our schedule. Nobody has any other questions? I'll give you a couple more minutes. I should have been better prepared to tell you about next month's Online with the CMC. Let me look that up real quick. Oops, I think somebody chatted something. Hang on.
Oh, no, thank you, Erica.
Oh, was it just a thank you?
Yeah. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Rhonda.
March 17th, we'll be doing word of mouth, transcribing an oral history collection. And that is by our two previous metadata catalogers, Aaron and Heidi, and that's going to be a recording, but we will be here live to answer any questions. So I don't know if this has ever been presented on before. I would like to learn more about the 033 and 518 fields. Okay. And Joyce said, thanks for confirming what I have been doing. You are welcome. Tracy, I popped in late, looking forward to seeing the recording. When will it be available? We have to send it to our IT staff. Usually they're really fast, but either tomorrow or early next week, I would say. And Lisa said very informative. Thank you. Did I miss anything
Thank you, Lisa.
else? And Rhonda said it was a very informative presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And Aaron, you were able to hear us, so that's good. I'm glad logging in and logging out and logging back in worked. Okay, so we've got March and April upcoming. We might have a May session. We've got 2 interns right now who might do a presentation, so I'll keep you posted about that. All right, Aaron said lots of good information. Thank you. All right, if we don't have any other questions, then I guess we'll see all of you next month if you registered for that. So I'm going to stop the recording.
Thanks all.